Good evening. This meeting of the Romulus Board of Education is called to order at 6:01 p.m. Could I have roll call, please?
Ms. Bowles?
Here.
Mrs. Kraut?
Here.
Mrs. Funderburg?
Here.
Mrs. Buckley?
Here.
Mrs. Beard?
Here.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Here.
Mr. Theed present.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, is a report from the Boys and Girls Club. Ms. Jill Cavell is here to give a presentation. Oh, I'm sorry. Approval of the agenda. I'm getting ahead of myself there.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Support.
It's been moved by Ms. Buckley, supported by Ms. Funderburg. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Now we'll move into the Boys and Girls Club presentation. Dr. Daniels?
Good evening, everyone. We are always excited when we have partnerships that are good for our students and for our community. And one of the partnerships that we have with in the Romulus Community Schools is a partnership that we have with the Boys and Girls Club. It's one that we appreciate. It's one that we are extremely fortunate to have because all communities don't have it. So we see it as a true blessing for us. And tonight they're going to be with us to share with us, and we appreciate them being here. Excuse me. And Director Jill Cavell is going to be here. And I know you guys are going to have to clap for yourselves, but we just want to clap for you. So everyone, let's give them.
You'll need to use the microphone
Yes.
for
Yes.
TV land and YouTube. No, probably the top switch.
Now is it on?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you for that, Paul. I mean, the relationship we have in the Romulus Community Schools, like I've said in meetings before, I don't want to go anywhere else. I mean, we provide a service because you let us provide a service. And if it wasn't for you letting us in your doors and providing transportation from your schools to the Boys and Girls Club, these kids wouldn't have a place to go after school. They are here as my special guests and your special guests to tell you about them, what schools they attend and whatnot. I also have Mr. Leroy Burcroft. You want to come up, Leroy? They think it's all about me talking. No, that's why they come. And then we have John Jariga. Come on, John. John's a man of few words. If it wasn't for Mr. John Jariga back in 1997 to get the Boys and Girls Club started, he actually visited the club I was working at in Dearborn because he wanted to get it in the Romulus Community Schools. And this man right here made it all happen with with help from the school district. But if it wasn't his goal, and I'll let him talk about his goal when it was 1997, but that's why we're here. But the relationship we have, I challenge anybody to say the relationship we have is better anywhere else because it can't be. I mean, in the support of everybody here on the board. Sherry, actually I have a special card for you. And not that I'm trying to neglect anybody else, but Sherry's put up with me for years. So here, Sherry, here you go.
Thank you.
When Tom Dolan left, Sherry was our connection with the Romulus Community Schools. And thank you. I mean, I don't know if I need to speak any more about that because they're here for that. But thank you for everything you do for us. She's very honest, very truthful, tells us what the concerns are. And I appreciate your honesty and our friendship, basically.
My pleasure.
I knew her from Taylor a long time ago. It doesn't go away for some reason. But, and then I have this for the school board. So I don't know if you could post this up, but the kids signed it. It's actually, it's a homemade card, and it's printed by a company that we locally go through. I'm not going to give you a name up because I don't want to do that. But the kids signed it. This is what the kids made. So if you could post it somewhere, whatever, I mean, we can make you each one if you'd like. But this is should I just give it to you for right now?
Yeah, we can not only post it here in the building, but we can have it scanned and put on our website as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
But we serve over 327 members last year alone. And if you add the numbers that we had at the Merriman site, along with the Wick site, there's well over 10, 20,000 kids that we served in the Romulus Community School since 1997. I believe in what we do because I have good people with me. And if I didn't have the people on our side like you guys and our advisory council, and this is only a couple of them, it couldn't happen here. So I personally want to say thank you. I'm also going to ask you guys to speak a little bit, because I know politician right here.
We have the best club director in the world, Jill Cavell. She not only manages the Romulus Club, but also the Belleville, or recently named Donahue Club as well. So we're grateful to have her and all that she does. Real quick, I got involved because of this gentleman. He was my 8th grade school teacher, shop teacher in Romulus, and Mr. Jariga, and then he was a club kid. He was passionate about getting a club in Romulus, and when he first started this adventure, put together an advisory board, and I've been with him ever since. And now we have the partnership, as Ms. Daniels said, in the clubs, which is unique. Being the president of the Romulus Advisory Board, I'm also a member of Southeast Michigan. Southeast Michigan is now kind of taking and adopting this model of working with the schools, and they're multiplying it across other districts throughout Southeast Michigan. In fact, they've sold assets and standalone buildings because to serve these kids that she talked about is costly for staff and so forth. So they're actually moving that forward and using that in other schools as they go. The reason I am passionate about Boys and Girls Club, and John got me involved, is this. It provides good positive activities from when kids get out of school till when their parents get home, often in the evening. We've had tutoring programs that we've supported with, arts, crafts, games, I mean just everything that gives kids a safe place to go after school. And I think that's when kids can stray, especially the kids from early elementary to junior high. And I think it's important that we keep them busy with good activities. So that's why I'm behind it. Our advisory board is tasked with raising funds to help keep the club moving. So Jill has been going all over, city council meetings, school board meetings, service organizations, telling the story because we want people to know the value of the club. And if they're stirred in their heart, they may want to support it. And we thank you for your partnership because the building, the transportation that you've provided we couldn't do it without the school board and with the school district. So I just want to say it's all about the kids, as we say in our advisory board, so you'll hear from them. But thank you for all your support. And with that, our founding father, John Jariga.
He doesn't want to talk.
I don't talk very much in public, only to kids. I used to teach here in Romulus for 30 years. When we first started the club 16 years ago, we didn't have the money to buy a standalone building. And so we started by getting all the kids coming to the elementary school. All the buses came in and brought all the kids to a central organization. And the National Boys and Girls Club organization in New York saw what we were doing. To run a standalone building costs $500,000 a year. To run now what we have in the schools costs $200,000. They figured this is a no-brainer. They labeled this the Romulus Project. There are 2,500 Boys and Girls Clubs in the United States. A lot of them can't afford to stay open. They're closing their clubs and they're going to schools. And they labeled it the Romulus system. So you should be proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hi, my name's Kiara Thompson. I'm 15 years old. I am a sophomore at Romulus High School. I have been attending the Boys and Girls Club since I was in, I want to say 4th grade, so that's about 6 years. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for supporting our Boys and Girls Club.
You could do it.
What's your name? You gonna freeze it?
We're working on it. He's not like this at the club.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Michael Pickens.
How old are you? How old are
7.
What school do you attend? Okay. And what do you want to say to everybody up there? Thank you for what?
Thank you for supporting our Boys and Girls Club.
Very good.
Hello, my name is Demarion Pickens. I am 9 years old. I attend Wick School. I have been a Boys and Girls Club member for the past 4 years. I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you for supporting my Boys and Girls Club.
My name. My name is Vance Rogers. I'm 13 years old. I'm in the 8th grade, and I attend the Romulus Middle School. I've been a member of the Romulus Boys and Girls Club for 8 years, and I would like to say thank you for supporting our Boys and Girls Club.
Hello, my name is Alea Pickens. I am 13 years old and I am in the 7th grade. I attend Romulus Middle School, and I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you for supporting our Romulus Boys and Girls Club.
Hi, my name is Dewan Davis. I'm 15 years old. I'm currently in the 10th grade at Romulus High School. I've been attending the Boys and Girls Club for 7 years now. And I'd like to thank you for supporting my Boys and Girls Club.
Hi, everybody. I am Ashante Pickens, and I am currently a staff at the Boys and Girls Club for the last year, but I am a parent for the last 7, and I just want to thank you guys for having this wonderful program and opportunity for my kids to have something positive to do. And on behalf of parents, I just really appreciate that you guys did that for them. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. We took probably a little bit more time than we should have, but I think it was well worth it. But thank you for having us. And anything you need from us to help years come, let us know. And I think you know that, Paula. So, but thank you for having us. And are we excused to get these guys back?
As a matter of fact, you are absolutely
sorry. The school tomorrow.
You are welcome to stay. However, as a mother and grandmother, I recommend that you go home, make sure that you have had dinner, finish your homework, and go to bed. And we thank you for being here with us.
I just want to, and I'm sure that the entire board feels this way. Thank you for the daily commitment that you provide, Jill, and to your staff, to Leroy on the guiding board, and to Mr. Jariga for bringing us this program in the first place. This has been an absolute win for this community, and I'm certainly happy to continue to do anything we can to foster this partnership forward. Any board members have anything else before they scoot?
No, I think you said it all.
Yeah.
You summed it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A shop too. I think part of my thumb's still on my woodworking project.
Captain Leacher, if you want to go ahead and get set up, and we'll.
I remember taking that big beam. 7th grade, I took that router right across the table, right?
Those are the boys, but I'm thinking that might be her daughter. They have the same last name, unless it's a relative.
Okay. The next item, board members, is the presentation from the Romulus Police Department. We have with us Chief Dickerson and Captain Leacher from the Police Department. You might recall that myself and Dr. Daniels have recently referred to meetings that we've had, preliminary meetings with the city, with the police department, talking about safety and things. And Captain Leacher and Chief Dickerson have got a wonderful presentation that they're going to give to us, and then we'll open the floor for discussion after the presentation. Ms. McGlynn, would you mind killing the lights over there for me, please? Yes. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, okay, is that okay?
Yep. We kind of went through a dry run earlier. And the floor is yours, Captain.
Thank you, President McLaughlin. Good evening, Dr. Daniels and esteemed school board members. Thanks for having us this evening and allowing us an opportunity to speak to you. Excuse me. Back when the tragedy at Sandy Hook took place, as the entire nation was stunned, and all of our hearts went out to them. I'm sure that you, along with every other school board, probably across the nation, took a step back and said, you know, what is it that what can we do, what are we doing to keep our kids safe, and to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep them safe in our schools. And we took a look at that as a police department as well. And Chief Dickerson took the initiative to reach out to Dr. Daniels and Ms. McLaughlin and sit down with them and say, you know, what is it that we can do to enhance the safety of our kids in the schools, and what do we have that we're doing now that maybe we can expound on to make this even better. And so what came from that is a charge to the police department to put together a program. And so Chief Dickerson, through his initiative, and along with Dr. Daniels and Ms. McLaughlin, we came up with the program we're going to present to you today for your consideration. The working title is STOP, which is Safety and Truancy Outreach Program, and as presented, it would be a joint effort by the Romulus Community Schools and the Romulus Police Department. Just a little bit of background on the city of Romulus, and this is according to the 2010 census. Population 23,000, almost 24,000. Median household income $45,100, down $13,000, almost $14,000, which is a drop of 23.6% in 10 years' time. The other two percentages there are the residents in our city that are living in poverty, and then the households as well. And these are kind of important statistics, because as that transfers over into the school community, you'll see that with the next slide, that it means 72% of our, this is according to the school statistics, of our students receive free or reduced lunch district-wide. And I didn't break this down into the numbers, although they are broken down by building, because the numbers are fairly consistent from building to building. Section 31A state funding requires identification of students at risk in two more eligibility areas. One of those eligibility areas is free and reduced lunch. So the state recognizes that if a child receives free and reduced lunch, they automatically are considered to have a risk factor for being considered at risk. And that means 72% of our students fall into that category. So what does that mean? That means that the state, and research that I've done would show that means we need to try to supply these kids with additional resources, because at risk means, at risk for what? Well, the research shows that they're at risk for higher rates of absenteeism, for dropping out of school, to be involved in violence, to be subjected to or participate in bullying, increased risk of child abuse and neglect, higher rates of emotional problems later in life, and then obviously higher risk and later risk of joblessness and poverty as well. So what are the causes and contributors to school violence, which is one of the things that we want to address with this program? According to the IACP and the BJA, which is the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and the Bureau of Justice Assistance, which is a division of the Department of Justice, or DOJ. We love acronyms in law enforcement, so bear with me, I'm sorry. Their second edition, which was published recently, I didn't get a year on it, but it's the most recent publication. Peer pressure to engage in harassment of other students, drug and or alcohol use, truancy, lack of quality role models, and I found this interesting, the availability of inappropriate role models, which means, according to this guide, there's a lopsided access to the wrong kinds of role models for our kids, and not enough of the right kind. A lack of adult supervision and positive interaction with our children after school as well, as evidenced by the need for programs like the wonderful Boys and Girls Clubs, which was the presentation that preceded ours. So these are causing contributors. Continued, the failure to detect and treat children exhibiting warning signs verbally or in writing of being troubled. And this is incredibly important, because these are the things that our teachers and the adults in our schools right now that are charged with educating our kids don't really have the time to be paying as close attention to as they can. Not that they can, but as they'd probably like to, because they're charged with teaching our kids. A little bit of background on me. I am a school board trustee myself, have been I'm in my 10th year serving to serve two different districts. And I know that in the district I serve in right now, our school resource officer is really keyed into these things right here. She is very, very, very keyed into, through training she's been to, that keys on kids that exhibit in writing or verbally a perceived injustice, because perception is reality to them. That means if they perceive it, that's real. Revenge fantasy, obsession with revenge, desire to be notorious, preoccupation with previous school shootings or shooters, feelings of insignificance, feelings of dehumanization, and desensitization to violence. So, how do we prevent this? Well, according to the same guide, Responding to School Violence, the prevention needs to include, and I'm not going to read that list, but if you look at that list, I was hard pressed to find anybody on that list, and it's a 2-page list. So when you're done with that one, I'll switch over to the next slide, because with all these groups of people that are mentioned, and then the last one is kind of the all-encompassing others, it pretty much is an all-hands-on-deck approach. Basically, this guide says that everybody that can positively touch our kids' lives needs to, and that's the way we prevent this from happening. So again, according to the same guide, what are the suggested strategies? Well, there are several strategies, and I could probably talk to you for the next hour about those, but again, I've sat on that side of the table, and I know what you want to hear. You want to hear the facts and what you need to know, and that's what you want to hear. But to utilize school resource officers is one of the key things that were touched on in this guide. And because the school resource officers, according to the guide, can give a law enforcement presence, they can provide law-related counseling, law-related education to students, faculty, and staff. They can address truancy issues. They can do home visits. SRO can assist schools with employee screening, serve on various school threat and disciplinary action assessment teams. And I capitalized this because it really struck a chord with me, the continuity of officers in the schools, and because it builds rapport. And that means an officer to a school who doesn't have to spend his time going all around the district and never getting a chance to really get to know the kids, builds a rapport with the kids. That rapport that the officer builds trust. That trust builds a relationship. That relationship, we hope, and evidence shows, will cause kids to feel more empowered to come to them with problems that could be a potential problem for the school, be it some sort of a threat, some sort of things that they wouldn't normally go to other adults with, because they establish those relationships with the officers assigned to those buildings because they have that rapport with them.
Captain Leacher?
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind, can you speak a little bit about the philosophy behind the home visits so that people understand that it's not just about your son or daughter's not in school today?
Yeah, and when we get into what our SROs are going to do, and it's coming up on another slide, I'll talk about it again there as well, but absolutely we can talk about it here. For what we believe, and what we envision this program being a home visit for an SRO to say a truant with regard to truancy, isn't just to address the truancy issue. Although if you knock on a door and mom answers the door and she's just not quite been on her game and has been maybe a little on the lazy side getting Billy or Susie to school, and she goes, oh, yes, the police officer's here, and I guess I better get him to school. That's good. We want that, but that's not our only purpose. That same knock on the door with the parent that responds, that bursts into tears and just says, I just don't know what to do. I've tried. I can't do that. I can't. We want our officers are going to be equipped with resources through working with the schools and working with programs like Boys and Girls Clubs and Growth Works and counselors to be able to provide resources for those people. So this is all about whatever the child needs to be successful. Of course we want them to be, they can't be successful if they're not in school, but the reason they're not in school isn't always just because they don't want to come to school or they can't get up to an alarm. Or, I mean, there's so many more things that could be contributors to that, and we want to be one of those resources to be able to assist there as well. Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. So assist schools with employee screening, serve on, I talked about that already, in the continuity of the officers in the schools. So, real quickly, our plan is to add 2 additional school resource officers for a total of 3. We have 1 right now. 1 school resource officer would be assigned full-time to the high school and adult ed. 1 school resource officer assigned full-time to the middle school. And then 1 school resource officer assigned to rotating through the elementary schools. Would be a constant rotation from school to school to school. What our SROs will do. This is going to look familiar to the list that the guide suggested, except I've added to that. And if you'll see, the biggest thing that I did with this slide is switch the top one and the bottom one. I put law enforcement at the bottom, and I put build rapport with students at the top, because I believe, and we believe as a police department, that our biggest asset to you and to our students is for those officers to build that rapport, to be a confidant, to be someone that the students can trust, someone that they'll go to with problems, that they can go to with things that come up, that can help the SRO keep the student and the entire school population safe. So build rapport with the students, number one, law-related counseling and mentoring. And what we see there is the ability for them to talk to kids about legal issues, about tickets, about maybe probation if they're on probation. Just, again, another person to go to help them navigate, help them navigate those, navigate those waters. A mentor. The mentor goes with the building of the rapport. That positive role model that we talked about that was mentioned before, the lack thereof. We want to be one of those positive role models and a mentor for our kids. Law-related education to students, faculty, and staff. This point I could probably talk to you again on for the next hour, because these are programs that are near and dear to my heart, as I believe that Ms. Bowles will attest to, having been one of my DARE students. I taught the DARE program. I taught the GREAT program. I was the first grade officer trained in Romulus. These programs are incredibly important because that's where I developed a lot of rapport with students that go on to become young and successful and contributing adults back to their community. And I'm very proud to have been part of their lives and to have touched their lives. And I believe that those relationships, that an SRO, a DARE officer, a team is the state police version of DARE. It kind of encompasses the bullying and the gang resistance and the drug resistance all together. And they're all great programs. But that's where you develop those relationships. Those relationships literally last lifetimes. So moving on with what the SROs will do, because like I said, I could talk about this other stuff all night long. The truancy, and with special attention given to state count periods. I will say that through research I did on truancy, that your attendance rates are relatively high. But as I mentioned to Dr. Daniels in discussion, there's still, as I looked through that data, I still noticed that even on days when in a building you might have 90% attendance, you still, out of that 90% still translates into 60 or 70 kids that weren't in school that day. And I also noticed, again, without getting into a lot more in-depth research, that at a couple months in a row, it seemed like right around the same period, there was 10% of the same school's population being gone. Now, were those the same kids? Is there a reason for that? Is it something we could look into? That's absolutely something an SRO could look into for you, and then see if there's something going on that they could, if it's the same students. Again, that's where we can identify those patterns and assist in getting those kids the resources they need and making sure that they get where they need to be, which is in school, so they can learn. The home visits to address truancy issues, as well as overall well-being checks, and as Mr. McLaughlin asked earlier, and I touched on that a little more, that pretty much encompasses how we envision those home visits going. Yeah, we're there to address truancy, but we're also there to be a resource for the family to get things they need so that they can get their kids, to get the students in school where they need to be. Again, assist schools with employee screenings, serve on threat and disciplinary action assessment teams. I added this bullet because, again, it's near and dear to me as a school board trustee as well as a parent. Assist with regular review of building and district safety plans. Again, through discussions with my SRO, I sit on a committee now in my school district where we are going over our safety plan, and I'm not even going to tell you the last time it was gone over, because it was a long time ago, and that won't happen again, because as a result of Sandy Hook and as a result of our SRO being part of this committee, we've identified that, and we knew this already, that as we develop strategies for dealing with school violence, and as Sandy Hook gets reviewed, and we look at different ways to make sure that type of a situation doesn't happen again, the bad guys are out there reviewing what we're reviewing, and then they're trying to stay a step ahead of us. So how do we do that? How do we stay ahead of them? We keep doing this on a very regular basis. God forbid that a Sandy Hook ever happens again, but what happens if and when something like that happens, and the parents come to you and they say, hey, what are you doing? Well, how nice would it be to say, we're doing something every 3 months, so we're doing something minimally yearly. We are reviewing this, and we have our police department with our SROs that are involved with this, and we're making sure that we're sending them to training, and the police department sending them to training to make sure they're on top of this. So we will always be on the cutting edge of the latest research to make sure that our safety plans are top notch. So I thought that was an extremely important point, and would be important for us with this program as well. And then, of course, the given is the law enforcement piece. You have the law enforcement officer in the buildings to address law enforcement related issues as they come up. So we come now to the funding sources, and where would those funding sources come from? Funding sources available to us, to the police department, are through COPS grants and through grants.gov are the two. The Kellogg Foundation, Skillman Foundation isn't specific to law enforcement. However, they do offer opportunities to request or present funding and grant programs for these types of initiatives. We are researching those even as we speak. I have researched the COPS site myself, and there is not a funding cycle available for this type of a program yet. However, we anticipate that there will be one forthcoming, but there is no timeline on that. They rotate through different periods, and it's not just one time a year that those grants are offered. They're offered in different segments throughout the course of the year, and we will constantly be researching those to look for funding sources. And then, of course, I have other resources because I have people that I've assigned to this already that I've said, I want you to go out and use your networking and keep looking and don't stop looking until we find something. And then, of course, anything that we were to find, and we've discussed again in our preliminary discussions with Dr. Daniels and Mr. McLaughlin would be shared equally, and we decided that again, if the program were to be approved, that we would share that funding. I'm going to close with a slide, and then Chief Dickerson is here to answer any questions that anybody might have, or to add anything that I might have forgot, because I have a tendency to talk kind of fast, and I wanted to get you as much as I could, as quickly as I could. I kind of like the gardener metaphor. It says, rather than the hasty tinkering of the mechanic, the nurturing of life requires the patience of the gardener. The fast technological rush of society leads us to be mechanics. We must preserve the long patience of the gardener. And I kind of looked at it as not necessarily a slap in the face of mechanics, because they serve a great purpose. And people that can fix my computer quickly, I love them to death, okay? But a computer's not a child. And a child can't be just fixed with a screwdriver or a quick pat on the back or a quick kick in the butt and then say, okay, now go off and be good and do what you're supposed to do. But it's something we have to be engaged in every single day, and it takes the entire community. And another phrase that I love to quote is that it takes an entire village to raise a child, and it truly does. So with that, I thank you for your time. I hope I didn't take too much of it, and if there's any questions for me or for Chief Dickerson, we'd welcome them at this time.
Ms. Mitchell, could you turn the lights on for me, please? Thank you. Any board members have any questions?
I got a couple comments and questions.
John?
First of all, thank you, Chief and Captain Leacher, for coming in. I think one of the benefits is when you have these officers in the school. I know with my professional job with the city, I don't think a lot of people see the runs that our officers on the fire department and the police department go on to the kids in our city. Whether they're setting fires on playgrounds or are in trouble with the law. And having these officers in the school, when the other officers on the road go to these kids' house, they're able to probably talk to the officer in the school about this kid also, where that don't happen right now because we don't have the officers in the school. And I was also wondering, when Deputy Chief Wagner was here on the fire department, we were doing the lockdown drills. Do we know if we're still continuing to do those, or are they going to happen again? I know the school is doing it, but I know through the city we used to do the lockdown drills. Are we going to try to get those back?
With the schools?
Yeah, where our officers would go, and I know the Deputy Chief Wagner was handling it on the fire department, being emergency management, but we don't have that position anymore. I was wondering, would that be part of this too, that we could include?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. A lot of the stuff that we touched on the slides were kind of not vague, but
Like a
they were
boilerplate?
Yeah, because they can be tailored to whatever each building would need, whatever each SRO would determine after speaking with staff. I know that early this afternoon, Dr. Daniels and Ms. McLaughlin, we were talking about what would the education piece look like with the faculty. Well, it's going to look like whatever you want it to look like. I mean, whatever that staff decides that they need, the SRO feels that they need to present, because the needs are going to be different from the high school to the middle school, and we discussed that a little bit earlier before the meeting, that in middle school you deal with different types of problems than you deal with at the high school. So why wouldn't you tailor your faculty and staff presentations from your SRO to the needs of the building? So yeah, it's whatever we want it to be. So and I would definitely view that as being something that SRO would look into. Absolutely.
And could we tailor like the middle school events, like after school, that officer be part of that program too?
We discussed that as well when it comes to the resource piece, as far as allocating those resources to offset places where right now you request additional manpower for certain events. I believe we spoke specifically about the prom toast came up, but yeah,
games.
Basketball games. Absolutely, that's would exactly be part of their function. We would be able to adjust their hours to accommodate that as well. Sure.
Okay. And I think You answered my one about what you do in your district. I was going to see what you guys have changed in your district, but you answered that. And not to put a downer on it, but I believe yesterday the police in, I forget what state, cracked a thing with the middle school. Was it a seventh grader that had all the weapons in his house? He left a note that today he was going to do some kind of havoc in the school. And I believe the police busted that. So, I mean, at seventh grade, I mean, it's sad. So I think it's a good idea. I appreciate you guys working on this.
Ms. Funderburg had some questions?
I guess I have more of a question for you. If there is a possibility that when we do the, if this is approved and we formulate the contract, can we have like a discussion in regards to reviewing our safety plan as a board?
Yes, and that's all going to be part of the process, is because I think we all need to be educated as to where we are with the safety plan, and where, bringing the police department and the fire department, for that matter, in on it to see where we are.
Okay.
That's absolutely part of the discussions.
Okay.
Were there other questions?
I have
Ms.
one.
Bowles?
Yeah, I just want to know, far as formulating a contract, so I just want to make sure I get this clear. There's not a contract right now that is put together, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so this is just so that we're giving the authorization for the superintendent to begin to put together the specific contract itself.
Yes, and I'll
Okay.
explain that in a minute.
In that contract, it says specifically, I heard you talking about the resources, and you said that there were some resources you still needed to look into, and that there would be like a shared amount that we would have to share. Will the contract itself will indicate that amount? Am I correct? If what the resources are, how much is going to go towards, how much each resource is willing to put towards the program, and also how much we will be responsible for in regards to being a part of the school board and also the city as well.
Yes, I believe so.
So all of that information
You
is in
bet.
one document. Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? Then before you speak, Chief, I'll just speak to the precedent-setting part of this program. Chief Dickerson and Captain Leacher, myself, Dr. Daniels, and the mayor had a meeting about this, a month or so ago? 2 months? Couldn't have been 2 months, because Sandy Hook was 2 months. So this was after the holiday break.
Right,
I think it was
shortly
way
after
after the
that.
holiday break. Because actually, the chief contacted me over the holiday break to say that we don't want to be in a reactionary mode. We want to be proactive about this. But this is landmark in that this is putting together yet another program where the city and the schools are working together for the betterment of the community. There is an absolute understanding that any grants that are received for this program will be evenly split between both entities, regardless of the source of those grants. Now, with that said, and I'm not trying to take any thunder from the chief's comments, there is, because when we're going to be asked tonight to approve the topic sheet that I've had prepared for you that will authorize our administration to formulate the contract. It says there's no budget implications on that, because there's not. There's no cost to creating a contract. But the cost of this, is roughly going to be to us about $75,000. That's less than we're currently paying for one officer, and we'd be getting 2 additional officers for those monies. Basically, it has to do with bargain agreements and all those kind of things. But when you look at the things that are going to be difficult to quantify in this proposal are the increased safety atmosphere, especially at the middle school. We're going to have wonderful resources available for our children and for our families, that we're going to have people that are going to be trained specifically in how to get them the resources they need to be successful. And I don't know that that's easy to quantify. Matter of fact, I think the comment was put that we can't put a price tag on a child's safety. There are talks, and this is what the police department's going to go through with us as far as a safety plan, because we've had preliminary talks about, do we go with video cameras, do we go with buzzers, things like that on our buildings. They're going to be able to give us some professional insight onto whether this might be applicable for that particular building. They'll basically help us do a security walkthrough on our buildings and be a constant resource to us to give us that advice. Have I missed anything, Dr. Daniels?
No, I think that was it. And one of the things that we really are trying to do, I think, as everyone has shared, is be proactive. You know, the district is already doing some very positive things in this area. But as was shared, you know, when you've got people out there who are trying to do wrong, they're constantly doing that. So it's up to us to continue to stay ahead of the game in helping make sure that our kids stay safe. And, you know, we do have a regular review of our safety plan, but not through the lens. You know, we look through our educator lenses, but we need to have it reviewed through the lens of the professionals. And so that's another thing that will kind of help make sure that we ensure that our kids stay safe, you know, so that they can have those kinds of lives that we want them to have.
I really like the concept with of the training of the staff. I mean, not once a year with that officer in there. It's almost like a monthly thing that the staff can be updated on procedures, and you know, because they're part of the safety of our children also.
And one
we're
of the
getting professionals
conversations
to
that
do
we
it.
had, and then I'll turn it over to you, Chief. One of the conversations that we had in getting to tonight was the education piece that may be for our staff and more importantly for our parents. These are the signs you need to look for. These are the writings you need to look for. This is what this color means. This is what, you know, the prescription drug abuse that's going on. You know, it's just a litany of things that would be an educational resource for parents, and the SROs would help facilitate that instruction, whether it be through school community meetings, whether it be through printed literature, or something that would help facilitate things. Chief, did you?
Thanks, Mr. McLaughlin, members of the board. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to come tonight and address this important issue with you. Captain Leacher did an outstanding job with the presentation. I gave him the task after we had our initial meeting, and he hit a home run. He hit it out of the park. I got the hard job to talk about the finances, and I just want to make it clear that the grants that we spoke about, or that Cap spoke about, those are the areas we're going to look into. Nothing's been promised to us. Nothing's been, nobody's guaranteed us anything. We're actually have our grant folks looking into things. But from the police department side, because we've been frugal with our budget, we're working in the black. We're very cognizant of our overtime, of our expenditures, and so forth. I'm confident as I prepare my budget for next year that I'm going to set aside 50% of the cost in my budget for the upcoming budget to be able to pay our side of the two officers. And when I say our side, it's all of our sides, but what we're asking the schools to do is to contribute the other 50%. And it's a little bit lower, like you said, Rob, it's a lot lower because our labor costs have gone down because of new hires cost a lot less than the older hires, let's say. So we can get more police for you at the rate now. That's why we're comfortable, even if we don't get $1 of grant money, to reduce what we call the $75,000 for each side. I'm comfortable in my budget that we can live within our means to be able to absorb it on the police side, and I'm hopeful that you find $75,000 on your side, and we have these 2 additional officers to go with the one that we already have. And again, I can't say anything more what Captain Leacher said about why and how we need this. This is something that all school districts need to be addressing. It's something that is you can't, like Cap said, you can't put a price on safety for our kids. And then prevention. It's, Robbie, you touched on, you listen when we meet, and I appreciate that because of the things we talked about and the way that we run our police departments. Everything we try to do is proactive. We try to get out in front of stuff before it happens. And by getting in the schools, getting that rapport back, that is so much better than dealing with a kid from a law enforcement standpoint. That's why it was at the bottom of the list, law enforcement. I don't even like to use that term. I like community policing better. But this is community school policing, and it's a whole different concept than making arrests and having negative contacts. I want positive contacts. When I'm in the community with Corporal Jackson, your school resource officer now, I see him get more hugs and more highs and how you doing, officer, anywhere we go, because he has that. And what we want to do is give you 2 more. And selfishly, it helps the police department because when we have dealings with the kids, that hopefully the respect level from the officers and the children is a lot better. I think it'll give us insight as to, if there's problems, that, like you said, they'll come to the school resource officers and our officers when they come across some kids, maybe they're doing some nuisance type stuff, to be able to call the school resource officer. Hey, what's up with this kid named Johnny over at the middle school? Oh, he's a good kid. He's just got some, some issues at home. I'll talk to him for you. I don't want to have to take these kids away and call them out that way, but building that rapport goes so much further from educating them in the classrooms, which is your jobs, and keeping them out of our station, which is our jobs too. So again, this is a win-win for everybody. We're willing to set aside, like I said, the money in our budget to make this happen, because again, it's a reflection of the community, and we think it'll be positive, and we appreciate you giving it some support and consideration.
I appreciate all the work you guys have done on this and your initiative in this. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a topic sheet presented. The chair would entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to formulate a contract proposal with the City of Romulus for the collaborative creation of the Romulus Safety Initiative.
Excuse me, I have one more question.
Yeah, we have to have the motion seconded first.
Okay.
I'll
I'll support it.
Thank you. It's been moved by Mrs. Funderburg, supported by Mr. Theed. Questions, Mrs. Bowles?
Yes, I have a question. I just want to make sure that I'm clear before we go forward. This is just going to allow you just to create. Then that will the contract itself actually come back to the board for us to look through?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's my main concern.
Very likely
And
on
I
the
just want to
25th.
make sure that that's stated, that this is just for us to do just that.
This is just for us to try to put it together. And
Okay.
then, once we have it together, we'll bring it back for the board to take a look at it and have comments or whatever.
Okay, and in that time, that's when you'll get with the police department, and then they'll be able to tell you more about the resources. Because right now, I'm under the impression, as you was stated, that it's an unknown fact right now how much money is going to be given in regards to any resources, other than the fact that knowing that there might be a $75,000 amount that
Committing.
we have to
Well,
put in our
like they're
budget.
committing
committing.
to.
They're committing.
what
and-
they're asking-
And what we're likely to be doing is the same thing, in that, in the contract or the board action that we'll likely take, we'll probably say at an amount not to exceed. That way we give them a maximum amount, but it is fully anticipated that a majority of that funding will come from grant sources. But to be honest with you, we're not going to know what those grant sources are for several months.
Okay.
Because we have to have the program in place to apply for the grants. I know that
Okay.
sounds backwards, but
Right, it does.
that's the way government works.
Okay, now, is there going to be a time frame that the board as a whole, are we going to sit aside to see where we can work these funds out in regards to our budget, where it is right now?
That's what Sherry and I have been trying to go through and see what we can pull out to give you, to take a look at and say, these are some possibilities, and then.
And then we'll make
have
a
discussion.
decision
Yeah.
from there.
The
Okay.
recommendation will probably come from the administration for our February 25th meeting.
We're working very hard to try.
Yeah,
to
if
get
it
that.
doesn't, it'll be the first week of March, or the first meeting in March.
What you also need to understand, though, there is a line item, 2 line items in the budget right now that are currently budgeted for $80,000 plus for any overtime for extra events. Those are already tagged in our budget now. So I want you to understand that there's already a place card this year. Moving forward, again, you're going to be faced with some difficult financial decisions in the future, but again, putting a
Are
price
those-
tag on
and
security.
Are those funds available now, or they've spent?
They are being exhausted as the year goes through.
Okay, but we
They
do
will be
budget
spent.
for them.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is one way to not eliminate, but to help offset some of those overtime costs, because as the officer spoke to, we would reassign those officers during peak times, like specific games that we traditionally want extra police protection at, police presence, I'm sorry, and things like prom toast and things of that nature. So those kind of things would be scheduled.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, but we absolutely would pull together all of that and make sure that the board had, an
And there's
opportunity to
possibility of
take a
some
look at
Title
it.
31A monies, and, I mean, there's some opportunities out there that Dr. Daniels is gonna absolutely investigate.
And you'll report those findings to the board?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. I just have one informational piece. There's no action required on this. If you would take this, this is the script. I'm not going to read it out loud, but this is the script for the now infamous robocall that went out. If we can take 30 seconds to look at it, and if anyone needs us to play the robocall, we can. I cannot download it. I was going to email it to the board, but it won't. We don't have that functionality, but we can certainly play it. But this is the transcripted message that was given out to parents twice. Are there any questions? Then we will move on. Next item on the agenda is communications and expressions from the public. I have no forms filled out. Was there anybody that wished to address the board? Yes, ma'am. Can you come up and use the microphone, please? I know. That way they can hear you in TV land.
I just wanted to ask you, because I know that I go to the city council meetings also.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that the city and the school.
Is the microphone on?
Yeah, this, so that
Yeah.
the people at home can hear you when they play.
Okay.
Playback.
So the city and the school, I know, signed an agreement at one time for transparency through the governor, and they were going to get funds. Could any of these funds be used for what they're talking about this evening?
There's no funding involved with that agreement. You're talking about the IGA that the city and the school district
That
signed?
didn't have any
There's no
funds
funding
with
in there. No, at least, there's no funding received from the state. What
Okay.
that agreement says is if we have something that the city can use, or vice versa, then we'll use it from each other instead of going outside the family, so to speak.
So that's just
and
for
pay.
resources.
That's just
and
for
not money.
resources, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
But I tell you what, if I find that there is some, I'm going after it, okay? So don't think I didn't write that down on my little piece of paper.
You're very welcome. Anyone else?
I think that's the dashboard thing, right? The shared services, the dashboard.
Well, the shared, yeah, the
I don't know
dashboard.
if that falls.
Yeah, and that's just for transparency, but there's no money involved with that. Yes.
Keep the tape.
Who's that guy?
Just gotta make sure you use the microphone.
No, I figured I'd come out. There's a few times that I've wanted to say something, but
I stand on the X.
actually, that's a misnomer. I'll explain that sometime. But that's a long-standing tradition that started for another reason. But I've been doing this now for 16 years and hearing board meetings after board meetings after board meetings. I've grown up in this community. I've grew up on Tobine. I now live behind Camp Nemo's over here off Elmview. It's been, an honor to grow up in Romulus, and I appreciate all the efforts that you guys do. Officer Leacher, as I knew him, these programs that we grew up having instilled a lot. Now, I had parents that instilled a lot of value into us as kids, but the things that we had at school, I carry on as a teacher in my own classroom, talking about GREAT, DARE. These programs are so beneficial, and it means a lot to see you guys pushing that for the next generation of kids. I've been out of school now, this is going on 13 years. And it means a lot. I appreciate seeing that stuff go on. I've got two little ones at home, and I don't know how things will pan out, for their schooling and how long, we'll be in our community, in our state for that matter. But I just appreciate that stuff, and as long as I've been here, I've never really come out to say thank you, and I do appreciate the education, and I'm proud to say I'm a Romulus graduate. I go around saying that, and people kind of take, look back at you saying, you came from Romulus? Yeah, I came from Romulus, Graduated top 10, I got a good paying job, and it all came from educators like Mr. Doriga. I remember having him and having, when Boys and Girls Club was started, I remember that stuff and being a part of that. And those lasting impressions, they mean a lot. So that's the only reason I wanted to come out. I'm going back to my
Well, thank you.
my little
Thank you
room
for
there.
sharing your comments,
But,
Steve.
I appreciate it.
I remember having Captain Leacher as a DARE officer too, Steve.
I actually made a video.
Yeah, I was a little guy. Yeah. I remember that.
All righty
Small.
then.
I was a small kid.
I'd like to just insert, if it's okay.
Absolutely.
You know, I've had an opportunity to work and serve in a number of districts. And you need to know, I have only always heard positive things about Romulus. So if others start giving you this business about you're from Romulus, yeah, and we're in the places that I've been, and I mean, not only in our area, but across the state, good things come out of Romulus. So, you know, that's just the way, I need you to know that I've only heard good things about Romulus, and I want you to know that.
Thank you. With that, questions and concerns of board members? We'll start at the end. Ms. Bowles?
Yes, I have a concern, but I also first want to take the opportunity to tell the board president, thank you for providing me with this
Certainly.
robocall information. I'll be glad to get this back to the citizens and let them see this.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I have a concern in regards to the January 28, 2013 meeting that took place, in regards to the board members' requests, the process itself. I took the initiative to do a little research, contacted, actually, the National Association of School Boards, looked through that documentation, took the initiative to also look through the Michigan compelled laws, also took the initiative to look, or actually talk to the Michigan Council of Schools attorney, just to get a little bit of background on, you know, just basic information that was given in that meeting in regards to a board member's request itself. And the first thing that I went to is the Michigan compelled laws, which is the Freedom of Information Act. And it just states, it says, Michigan compelled laws shall upon request make available to the public salary records of an employee or other officials of the institution of higher education, school district, intermediate school district, or community college. This was in regards to some information that was given out at that specific board members, and it was stated that that information was too in-depth and that information could not be given out to a board member, or should not be given to a board member. So I did some, like I said, some research on that. And I just wanted to make it known that, you know, that's just from the right of a citizen. Each citizen has that right to request information in regards to the Freedom of Information Act itself. Now, as a board member is what I really wanted to go into, because as an elected official, you have a right to get whatever information is needed in order to do your job. So then I looked a little further, and I looked at the National School Boards Association, and it stated, you know, pretty much that all board members elected are equal mandate. And what that states is that no board member has more power or authority over another board member. So then I looked a little bit, I went a little bit more in depth, because you all know I like to do my homework. And the black and white stated that, you know, this is just one area that they stated, confusing responsibility with authority. And it states that, as one former school president noted, although your responsibility as a board member are different from other responsibility, and also just in officials, you know, secretary, vice president and all, it states that you must recognize that your authority is not. You still have only one vote, specifically. And what it states to me is, as a board member, regardless of what level you're on, each of us require different information, because we all come from a different background and we all have different experiences. So, and it just said just a little couple more things that I saw that I thought was very interesting that I would just like to bring to the board's attention. It says, good decision requires accurate facts in sufficient quantity to inform the board of the true nature of the problem. Solid information can also form the foundation for alternative solution and provide the basis for choosing the best options. Having accurate information is the key. Without such information, it is certain to be inadequate. Placing an item on an agenda and expecting the board to act on it without adequate and advance notice invites poor decisions. And, you know, it just states also, it actually said what I said, make sure you do your homework. And then I know, as a board member myself, you know, I made the promise that my main concept is to make sure that I do all I can to make education today better for brighter children of tomorrow. And that's what I stand for. And I had to bring that out because I felt like during that time frame, it may have been a situation where maybe an administration member thought that it was okay to try to take another board member to, for whatever reason, to intimidate another board member. And I thought that it was rude, it was disrespectful, it was inconsiderate, and it was out of line. And I just want to make it known to everybody, personally, I feel that, you know, I stand for what's right and what's just for all people. I don't have a problem standing if I got to stand for myself. Personally, my personal belief is, for God has not given me the spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. And I stand behind that. And so I just want to make that known to the board as a whole and to the administration department. If there's any time that anybody makes a request, specifically myself, and you have any questions about it, please feel free to put that in an email and send it to me, and I'll be more than happy to definitely give you information on that and send it to the interim and superintendent, and then at that time, they can take that information and delegate it to whatever department is needed. Thank you.
Thank you. In response, on the meeting on the 28th, I never said you could not have the information. In fact, you were provided the information. What I said was my opinion, that in my opinion, board members don't need the specific, that kind of detailed information. But granted, you had the right to it. Ms. Bowles, what I had and still have is a problem with the process you used to get the information. Ma'am, with all due respect, you came to this table from day one, pounding your fist on the table, making accusatory comments every time you speak, and you do not, nor does anybody on this board, have the right, the authority, or the placement to walk into our staff and demand that they give you information on your perceived timeline. Ma'am, you don't have that respect.
I understand that, and I appreciate you telling me that.
When you
I appreciate that, but what I'm trying to...
You came in this room with a chip on your shoulder.
May I continue?
You absolutely
Okay.
may,
Now,
but
I would just, I understand, I do.
You're
I
passionate,
appreciate
you will
it.
stand for
I
what's right.
appreciate it.
So will I,
Thank
and so
you.
will other members
I
of the
appreciate that. And I just want to let you know I appreciate that, but I never pounded my fist. I came here, I was very strong-minded, I stand for what I believe in, and I back it up with factual evidence. And when I came here, I took the documentation, I have every request that I have, and I put it in writing, and I directed it to the interim superintendent, knowing that as a board member, we only have one employee. That employee is the interim superintendent, and we are the employers. I mean, we are employed by literally the citizens. That's how we got to the seats that we have right now. It's because of the citizens. Then it's the responsibility of the interim superintendent to then take that information and delegate the responsibilities to the rest of the district, in other words, other positions. So that may have been the way you perceived it, and you have every right to perceive it in that way, but that was no indication of that, and it was documentation proven to state that, because it was given in documentation, and it was brought in, and also it was also emailed specifically to the superintendent, so that it would make sure that it was given there and that she had the information, whether it was in an email form or an actual document itself. So that was the whole concept behind it. It was never meant in a way to try to pound my fist down to say anything in regards to any information that was given out, demanding any information. I just needed that information in a timely manner. And that's all I was stating. And, you know, all it took was just an email just to state that I need more time on this before an administration member to take the initiative instead of coming to me as a board member and saying, hey, Tamika, I got your request, or Ms. Bowles, and I'm working on this, and I would like to give this to you, instead to come on a meeting in front of everybody and think it's okay to give it to the board president to tell how he feels or she feels or whoever it may be as an elected official, that in order for you to have request information, it's got to go through me. No, that's not the process. That's not how it goes. And I had to make that known to the public in general, what the situation is, and that I was going to make it known that I'm going to ask for information, and I'm going to do it in a request, and I am asking that that information be given in a timely manner. Thank you.
You're welcome, Ms. Bowles, but again, the administration did not initiate anything with regard to you. The administration responded to me after I received a phone call from somebody that was in the building that heard you shouting at this secretary. So I'm not going to debate that further in public. That's why the superintendent got involved. I certainly can. I can debate you from now till next month.
And you wouldn't win.
Mr. President, is there something, and I guess Dr. Daniels would probably be able to answer this, is so that we don't run into a situation like this in the future. Is there a process that we can apply to requesting information and to have a certain timeline that information can be fulfilled in. So then that way, we know what to expect when we ask for information, and it also gives you all administration enough time to get the requests that we have.
What I think is, and Ms. in responding also to Ms. Bowles, like she said, I don't think giving a timeline for you to work in, because depends on what the information is.
Exactly.
It could be something we can have it for you tomorrow. It could be something that's going to take 10 days, 20 days, depending on what it is, what the format is that it's being requested in, and all those kinds of things. So what I can continue to commit to, and I think I, said this earlier, was that, and I mean at a previous meeting, was that we will always do the best we can to get the information as accurately, as completely as possible, as quickly as possible. Not trying to draw things out, but trying to make sure that we have everything in the fashion that's being requested. Other than that, I don't know what I can really, just other than the commitment that it is absolutely our desire to work together. We have monumental tasks ahead of us, and we have to be able to come together to work together. That is the only way we're going to make it. So we are committed to doing whatever it takes to come together and do that, be it the collaboration with the Boys Club or other organizations, or with the city, with the fire department, with the police department, but absolutely with us. A house divided against itself will not stand. But when we are in one accord, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. So we're going to do everything that we know how to do to make sure that we go forward in that way, giving the utmost respect to our elected officials who serve here at this table and everywhere else. But we are committed to making sure that we can do things in a way that will ensure that all of our board members can make the types of decisions that they need with the information that they need.
Ms. Funderburg, to your point, we did discuss this, I believe, at the 28th meeting, that the resolution moving forward was, just as Dr. Daniels just stated, that, under normal circumstances, the administration will do everything they can to get individual requests handled as soon as possible. What became the contentious issue was this was a document that needed to be created. It wasn't a normal work paper, so to speak. And given the amount of priorities that they have that are otherwise on their plate, the direction was given and still stands that this board needs to direct. Because again, not one of us has got the authority to say, do this extra work. So that was determined that the board will vote on extraneous information request, and that's the way it stands.
As I stated before, maybe it wasn't stated before, but it was stated, but maybe you didn't hear it. It states specifically, as a board member, as a elected official, I have the right to get information. I have that right. Now, granted, I did ask for specific information. I told them what I wanted on the document. I never stated they had to recreate it. I was told specifically when I brought in the request to be specific. So I did an example to give them the indication of what information I needed. Nobody got back to me and stated, oh, this information needs to be created, or this is going to take this amount of time. All I know is I came into a board meeting and sat down and felt like specifically I was being bullied. And all it took was just a lack of communication. That's all it took. Furthermore, as I stated, I gave a document. Bringing the document in, all the person had to do was take the document and give it to Dr. Daniels, make a copy of it for their records, give me the other copy back, and then I would go about my way, as I've done previously with other requests. This particular person actually took the initiative to ask me questions. So I was really responding back to a particular person, and they took the initiative to ask me to come in and sit down with them and go through the information with them at their desk, because they stated that Dr. Daniels was not in the office at that time and was not going to be there for 2 days at least. And I told them that I didn't have a problem with that. So where did the screaming match come in at? I have no idea. The only reason why I responded is because I was asked specific questions, which is exactly why I stated a few minutes ago, from here on out, I would request that if there's any questions in regards to any information that I receive, to make sure that someone doesn't feel that because my voice is a little bit powerful, that, you know, fine, just put it in an email. It's already in documentation, and send that out to me, and I'll definitely respond back to that through the interim superintendent. The interim superintendent can then take that information and delegate that out to whoever she feels she needs to delegate it out in order to get that done back. And that's all I asked for.
Moving forward,
Thank
let's
you.
work on it.
I mean, to close that out, I think in a sense, it's no different if we get something in a board packet. As a board member, I have that right to ask the superintendent any information I need. So I don't think it's any different that you know, the superintendent, I don't know how to state this right, I guess works for the board. So I think if any issue comes up, I as a board member feel I have that right to ask Ms. Daniels anything I need, and then she can direct out through proper channels. I mean, like I said, it's no different if I get a board pack and I'm confused about something, I can pick up the phone and call Dr. Daniels and say, hey, explain this to me.
And
I may do that with other board members too.
And nobody has said no information will be forthcoming. That's the important part.
I just want to say one thing. I think absolutely a board member, whatever they request, they should be entitled to. But it's all about communication, about doing things decent and in order. Just communicate. That's all it is. Just to make sure everybody's on the same page. So as we go forward, let's just communicate. That's it. Communication.
Back to communications and concerns of board members.
I have
Mrs.
none.
Kraut? None?
Well, I should mention the soul food dinner tomorrow at 6 o'clock at the Romulus High School.
Thank you. Ms. Funderburg?
She took my thunder. No, no, you're fine. Also, too, we're having a financial aid night at the high school on February 20th from 6 to 8 p.m. So if you have a senior who and they're going to college, post-secondary, they can have assistance there to help them fill out the financial aid forms. And that's it.
I just want to ask everybody to know the Bardens to please keep them in your prayers. John Barton, who was on our city council, he buried 2 siblings today. It was a double funeral. They lost an uncle last week, so please keep them in your prayers. It was a rough day for them, and going forward, I'm sure it will be rough. So if you just send up some prayers for them, I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Thanks.
Mr. Thede?
No, thanks everybody for coming out on a windy night, and our officers for presenting a thing tonight on our school.
Ms. Beard?
The only thing I have, I'm gonna promote our kindergarten enrollment period is open as of February 1st. So if you have youngsters that are ready for school, you can go visit your elementary school in your area and bring them in, and then we'll be having a kindergarten roundup this spring in April, and they will be advertising that in the papers and flyers, and it'll be on our website also.
The only thing I have is board members, if any of you are interested in taking that CBA 261, that's going to be March 6th here at Romulus Middle School, please let Anna know as soon as possible so she can register us. There needs to be at least 10 people statewide that take the course, or it'll be canceled and we'll have to take it at another place. So if you could do that. I know I'm going this weekend. Ms. Bowles, I believe you're going to the school conference this weekend in Lansing.
That is correct.
Who else is going?
I am.
Mr. Thede, anybody else? No? Okay, well then, Ms. Bowles, Mr. Thede, I'll see you up in Lansing.
Looking
I
forward
believe
to it.
at this point, Dr. Daniels is planning on joining us on Friday. So it should be a wonderful conference, and we'll learn even more things for our kids. I want to thank the police department again, Captain Leacher and Chief Dickerson, for your outstanding work with this STOP program, and we look forward to working the details out of that. With that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Support.
It's been moved by Ms. Funderburg, supported by Ms. Buckley. Any questions? Not, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion, meeting is adjourned at 7:14.